Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. I woke up this morning to that dreaded message appearing on my phone saying, your device has received an attempted login from Russia. Luckily, I have two-factor authentication on everything and I reset my password, so hopefully I'm okay. But then I noticed that my site had been attacked and Viagra ads were appearing on there. On closer inspection, someone had hacked my site and created a new admin account and injected some malware code on there. Now, I think I've got most of it, but if we do have any experts listening, please let me know because I might need a little assistance. And these are two examples on a Sunday morning that highlighted how cybersecurity and passwords are crucial to everyday users and businesses of all sizes. So I wanted to invite someone on to highlight these issues and what we can all do to better protect ourselves. And a company called Keeper Security is transforming the way businesses and individuals protect their passwords and sensitive digital assets to significantly reduce cyber theft. As the leading password manager and digital vault, Keeper helps millions of people and thousands of businesses substantially mitigate the risk of a data breach. And not only that, they're also a SOC 2 certified and utilise the best-in-class encryption to safeguard its customers. So it's no surprise to hear that Keeper protects industry-leading companies, including big names such as Sony, and how they're also partnering with global OEMs and mobile operators to preload Keeper on the smartphones and tablets. But that's not the only reason I invited them on today, because their CEO has some revealing insights and also a fantastic startup story. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Chicago so we can speak with Darrin from Keeper Security. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Darrin. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Sure. I guess I would describe myself as a serial entrepreneur. I'm sort of like a bean counter smashed with an engineer. So I'm a CPA and also an engineer. I've been a technology entrepreneur for the past 11 years full time. Prior to that, I did a lot of finance and accounting work, primarily in high-end residential and resort real estate. You know, love technology. It's what I do now full time, and I've been doing that now for the past decade plus. So loving every minute of it. And my latest venture is cybersecurity, and I am the co-founder and CEO of Keeper Security, Inc. We're headquartered in Chicago. We have offices in Cork, Ireland, Northern California, and in Cebu, Philippines. So happy to be on your show today.
Fantastic. So as a tech entrepreneur of over a decade, what do you think the catalyst of your career success is?
I mean, I think, not to sound cliche, but I'd say focus and a lot of dedication, just tremendous amounts of hard work and grit. I think grit is probably the most important thing other than focus.
Absolutely. And based on your success as an entrepreneur, is there any advice that you would pass on to students or new entrepreneurs or even startup founders that are listening to this show right now?
Sure. I think the key, if you're, aspirational in terms of wanting to start any business, especially a technology company, because technology companies, in my view, are somewhat more complex than a traditional brick and mortar, just because technology intrinsically is a complex subject, right? It's just the underlying technology of anything can get somewhat complicated. But the long and the short of it is not to be afraid. Because the number one reason why I see really smart people that even work hard fail at building a business is really more around fear. If you're scared to do it, most of those people won't even want to start a company because they're scared. It's very interesting because, you can go the traditional route where you go to school, you get a job, you get a paycheck every 2 weeks, you get all kinds of benefits and everything else is fantastic. And you build a comfort zone. It's a very comfortable way to live. And I think that's great. But as an entrepreneur, you don't really have that luxury. You have to create that. And I've been doing this for a very long time. I've been an entrepreneur most of my life. I worked at a company for about, I'd say, 2.5 years prior to starting my first business. And, after that, I really never looked back. And it came down to just something inside of me that loved creating things. And at the end of the day, I didn't really care if I had to live on a couch or eat ramen noodles with, tomato paste for $1. I didn't really think about things like peer pressure, really care what other people thought of me or where I was in relation to other people my age. I didn't care. I was so content and so happy with building something that I knew would eventually become great, that was really my primary focus and my primary passion. So you really have to love what you're about to do. So you have to love the technology or the product that you're creating or the service that you're going to offer to the public. Whatever it is that you're doing, you have to love it, because if you don't love it, you're gonna quit. There's no other glue involved with starting and operating and scaling a business, because there's only two reasons why they fail, right? They fail because you either run out of money or the founders quit. I mean, those are the only two things that essentially happen.
So I'm curious, if you look back, can you pinpoint a key decision or a key moment that actually helped you define your career or help you get where you are today? Or was it just an accumulation of lots of things?
Well, I mean, I've done things from, I was an accountant. I did, tax returns, financial statements, due diligence. I've done, a lot of tax structuring, more sophisticated real estate transactions. I did about $3 billion of real estate transactions before I really went into technology full time. And, there's a big difference between, what we do in technology and design, and whether it's web development or application development. It involves, utilization of both sides of the brain. So I don't think it's like one thing that I could, potentially pinpoint. I would say that, life is such an amazing journey that it's not uncommon for people to do different things, especially entrepreneurs. I mean, you could be in technology, or you could be a professional athlete and decide to open a restaurant. I mean, for example, Michael Jordan has a steakhouse in Chicago, but, he also has 6 NBA titles. So at the end of the day, you're not necessarily relegated to one thing. But if you love creation, then I don't think you should be bound by any rules. If you look at Elon Musk, and it's everything from a payment platform like PayPal to electric automobiles to rocket ships, right? So that covers the full gamut of left and right brain. It's about, I think, exploration of not just what you want to do in life, but how you want to explore your own mind and put the test on yourself as to what you can achieve. Because, when you set your mind to something, you can do some amazing things, I think. So I think I don't think there's any bounds associated with that.
No, I completely agree. My teenage son always tells me, Dad, rules are for fools. I think he's ahead of his time. But can you please tell me more about Keeper Security, and where do you play within the cybersecurity landscape?
So there's 4 prongs of cybersecurity. There's prevention, detection, remediation, and response. So we're on the prevention side. So we make password management software, and it's really become a cybersecurity platform for preventing password-related data breaches. We also have other products and services that layer into that, but it all starts with password management. We have things like dark web monitoring. We have secure file storage. We have encrypted messaging. And those things layer in on top of password management. And the reason we start with password management is because over 80% of all cyber breaches are a result of weak passwords or poor password security practices. So we work really hard at helping individuals, families, and businesses, put a cloak of armor around their passwords and really give businesses great visibility over their password hygiene across the entire organization to prevent, password-related data breaches. So that's what we do.
So there are so many different aspects of security. So what was it that made you invest in password management specifically, and why is password management so important to you?
Well, at the time when we started the business, there was a void in the industry. Most of the constituents, i.e. competitors in the space, were really focused on the desktop computer and the web browser, and no one was really focusing on the smartphone category. And when the iPhone had launched back in '08 and the first SDK was being rolled out for the application store on Apple, we saw this tremendous opportunity to build a great application for managing passwords and private information on the iPhone. And that ultimately, turned out to be a blessing because it allowed us to be a mobile-first company. We grabbed, fast market traction and share with individuals and began building out the platform, from mobile to desktop to browser, and we ultimately became this platform and device-wide solution. So it allowed us to take, immediate dominance in the consumer channel, and then ultimately in 2015 we decided strategically to go into the B2B space, and that's been a fantastic growth segment of our business.
Now, we're right in the heart of the holiday season at the moment. Black Friday's come and gone, and more recently Cyber Monday. I recently read that Cyber Monday shopping increased by 19% this year. So with the rise in online shopping, are you seeing or do you anticipate an increase in cyber threats?
I think that cyber threats are increasing every single day, regardless of what day it is in terms of commerce. We are without a doubt in a cyber war. And it's funny, I just spoke on this at a keynote speech yesterday with a group of CISOs with Fortune 1000 companies, and we are undoubtedly in a cyber war. I mean, you could see there were, I think in the past 7 days, like 3 major breaches, from Marriott, Quora, and I believe there was another computer manufacturer, a major one that was breached. And when you look at the number of accounts, I think it totaled about 600 million accounts with personally identifiable information being taken, and now that information is being resold on the dark web for millions of dollars. So actually it may fetch over $1 billion probably based on dark web pricing. But, there's no special day anymore. Every day is a shopping spree for hackers, and companies, individuals, families, everyone's under attack, and they need to be vigilant. They need to be more knowledgeable about the technologies that are available to them and understand that we are in a new era. It's not so much about antivirus as it is about anti-theft. We have to protect our digital assets from digital thieves, and that's the problem.
So for any business leader or indeed just average consumer listening today, what are some of the best ways that consumers can protect themselves? And equally, how can businesses best protect their customers and their data?
Well, there's a mindset that you have to have, and I think you have to adopt a mindset that cybersecurity needs to be at the top of the list, whether it's, if you're a small to medium-sized business and you don't have a formal budget, that's okay. You don't need a formal budget because you can buy, prevention software, between, $500 a year and a few $1,000s a year, depending on what you purchase. So for a nominal sum of money, you can protect your assets that may be several $1 million. And the cost to value spread between those two things is gigantic. The key is making sure that A, you have an adaptive mindset that cybersecurity is top of mind because, we're no longer just in the business of selling widgets or services. We're in the business of protecting our customers' information, which makes us fiduciaries of that information. So whether we like it or not, as business owners and operators, we have a legal responsibility now to safeguard and protect our customers' digital information. If you're an individual consumer or a family, for under $100 a year, you can purchase, great products. There's password management solutions like ours. There's antivirus, there's anti-malware solutions like Malwarebytes, which is a fantastic product. Another product is Bitdefender. There's a series of products out there that can protect all of your computers and devices against malware. And prevention is the most important first step, because if you can obviously prevent, a hacker from getting into your network through one of your devices or endpoints, then you've won. And that is, extremely important. And I would also add that you want to be vigilant about phishing. And I'm not talking about the type that we do when we eat, some Dover sole. I'm talking about phishing. And too often, hackers are successful in gaining login credentials from an individual who unknowingly clicked on an email thinking that the email was sent by their bank when in fact it wasn't. It was a phishing scam. And this is a very simple way for hackers to gain access to your login credentials. So it's all about education. And I think that the key here is that there's technologies out there that are great for individuals, families, small to medium-sized businesses, and of course, larger enterprises.
And I'm glad you mentioned that about the phishing attempts, because they're getting more and more sophisticated now. Somebody can check out a CEO of a company, what they're doing on LinkedIn when they're away on business, and then track down somebody in finance and send them an email with an invoice, tempting them to click that link. Are you noticing businesses take this seriously, or more importantly, the role of education? Because that's possibly the most important part of it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is the most common method that hackers use, even in more sophisticated companies, are the phishing scams, and they're still working. I mean, you read, there's a lot of remote breaches that occur as a result of phishing. And we've seen organizations and municipalities, disclose, tax records or send wire transfers, to who they think is their CFO, when in fact it isn't. And, these are for millions of dollars. So it's really important, and it doesn't really matter if you're a small business and unsophisticated from a technology perspective or a larger enterprise. You can get duped if you're not properly trained. So we always recommend that companies, regardless of their size or industry, run phishing scam simulation software on their own employees. And we do that here as a practice at our company. And it's fantastic because it sends you a report, once a month. It shows you, who in your company clicked on the phishing email so that you can use it as an incident response exercise to take action and sit with the employee and train them and show them where they went wrong and what to look for in a suspicious email.
I also saw that you recently released a new study which found more than 2 out of 3 SMBs experience a cyber attack, but half don't even know how to protect themselves. So what do you make of the major gap in vulnerability and IT know-how and investment?
Well, I think, SMBs are under attack more than any other segment. And the reason for it is just a simple metaphysical one. The small to medium-sized business channel is the largest. So, for example, if you just focus on the U.S., in the United States, there's 5 million small to medium-sized businesses. In EMEA, which is, Europe, Middle East, and Africa, there are about 22 million. So if you look just in those two regions, you've got 27 million potential victims of cyber attacks. And that is an extraordinarily large number, and that is multiples larger than larger enterprise.gov, higher ed, and non-for-profit organizations. So the SMBs need a lot of help, and they need attention. They need technologies that are lower priced than traditional or conventional enterprise-grade software. And this is where I think the future is going. This is the focus of our business, which is on the SMB side. And it's to offer really great knowledge transfer, really great technology solutions at an affordable price for anything from a small office, home office, to a medium or larger size business. And, this is really the future, because most of the SMBs out there don't have dedicated IT staff. They don't have a formal IT budget, and they need software that's really easy to use, but very powerful. And the companies that do those two things well, where they can merge convenience, ease of use, and security into a single solution, are going to be very successful.
And what about larger enterprises, and what's the benefit of password management solutions for them? And how do they often use these type of tools in your experience?
Well, the benefits are exactly the same, but with them it's a much larger scale. So they traditionally have much, larger dollars, and just in terms of capital assets, exposure, brand liability. They have a lot of additional assets at risk. So it's really just a scale issue. The benefits to a small business are exactly the same as the benefits to a larger enterprise. And I know you had something, there was a second part of your question that I wanted to address in terms of, I think you asked about a gap.
Yes.
Okay, so with respect to the gap, the larger enterprises have somewhat of a paradox that we call it an adoption paradox. And you probably know this. When you use security software in a larger enterprise, there's been a traditional problem. And the traditional problem is that most of the legacy security software in the larger enterprise is difficult to use. And if it's difficult to use, then the employee doesn't want to really adopt it, right? There's a friction point, because you want to make sure that this type of security software is provisioned to the entire, employee base, and that it's used frequently. So if you can solve the problem with usability, then you solve that gap. And that's where the biggest security gap comes in, is that they buy the software. It's either extremely difficult to deploy, where, we've seen deployments on other products take like 18 months and millions of dollars in terms of overhead and staff. And the future is really geared towards, not just migrating to the cloud, but focusing on solutions that run on-prem, in the cloud, and really focus on hybrid cloud environments. And at the end of the day, can be provisioned in hours as opposed to months or years. And that's really, I think, where the future is for larger enterprises, closing the gap on provisioning and making sure that the solution is very easy to use and even enjoyable for employees.
Yeah, that's something I've seen time and time again. And the average employee, of course, just wants a single sign-in for everything, which is a whole other debate for another episode. But as we close out a year marked by high-profile data breaches, I think we can expect more of the same in 2019. But do you think businesses are going to get smarter at protecting themselves? And do you think hackers are going to continue to get more sophisticated? And what are the big trends in security that you expect for the next 12 months?
I think both of those things are going to happen. I think hackers are continuing to get more sophisticated. I think that businesses are finally waking up and realizing that they have to do something about this now, because, they're constantly under attack and they're being outpaced by the technology that hackers are utilizing to conduct large-scale security breaches. So it's like fighting anything, right? You want to make sure that the solution is outpacing the problem, not the other way around. And I think today we've seen that the problem has been metastasizing faster than the solution. And it's not like the solutions aren't out there. We're all here. I mean, I sit with constituents and colleagues in our industry that, don't necessarily compete with us, but we all help each other, right? One party might sell endpoint security. Another party might sell, an antivirus product. Another one might sell a privileged access management product. We sell enterprise grade password management. There are a group of us, and we sit down, we say, well, how do we educate the public? How do we get them over the hump? Even the private sector, right, in business, and especially government, right, where we see technologies are antiquated and outdated by, 10, 15, even 20 plus years. And hackers are using the greatest tools, and they're state sponsored with millions of dollars. What do? We want to make sure that the solution and the knowledge transfer, right, where the public embraces it, is greater. It's outpacing the speed of growth of the problem. And I think that's where we have to make, the paradigm shift.
Absolutely. So looking forward at the cybersecurity landscape, how do you see it evolving over the next 5 years or even 10 years?
Well, I think the two largest industries right now in technology are enterprise cloud and cybersecurity. And I think that trend is going to continue, quite heavily for the next 5 years. So I think we're going to see very nice, compounded annual growth rates. Sorry to get a little technical, but it's probably the CPA side of me. But we're going to see really nice growth rates on this because the proliferation of companies moving to the cloud, especially in the SMB sector, is gigantic. And it makes perfect sense because it's easier to manage, it's more scalable. There's, the benefits far outweigh doing anything on-prem. So at the end of the day, I think that there's a tremendous opportunity, not just for solution providers, but industries as a whole. I think what cloud and hybrid cloud architectures bring, zero-knowledge security plays a critical role in this, which we talk about quite a bit. I think that we're headed for some amazing evolution on both sides, of technology and in commerce.
And what about you guys at Keeper Security? Is there anything else that you can share with us today about your plans for next year?
Well, I think we have a very exciting roadmap. We're always measured on what we disclose to the public, but I will tell you that, for example, we just launched our dark web monitoring service called Breach Watch, which integrates with the password management vault, which has been a phenomenal success. We just launched it a month ago, and it's done tremendous business for us. So we're very excited about that. And on the B2B side, we've got some amazing product feature sets coming out that we think customers are going to love, and it's going to fulfill, unmet needs that they're currently experiencing. And we work really hard, to stay close to our customers, listen to their feedback, understanding the greater needs that they have in their business from a security perspective, a lot around usability, ease of deployment, high adoption by employees. As I said, we touched base on that earlier. But these things are critical for any type of security software. So we're really excited about, we roll into 2019. We're closing a record year of growth at the company, and very excited about, what we're going to be doing in the next few months and what we're going to be announcing with the press.
So for anyone listening that wants to keep up to speed with developments or want to check out your website or indeed just reach out and continue the conversation with you guys, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
They can just go to keepersecurity.com, and pretty easy to contact us from that site.
Well, I think businesses have finally started taking their head out of the sand, and they're starting to see the ROI of cybersecurity, but at board level now. But there is still a lot of work to do, and I love a lot of points you made there around education and knowledge transfer, because I think that's crucial. But more than anything, just a big, big thank you for coming on and sharing your story with me today. Thank you.
Oh, no, you're welcome. And if anyone wants to follow us on social media, it's at Keeper Security. We're pretty active there too, so we'll keep you updated, and we're happy to, we're really, we take a personal touch with everyone that we work with, everyone that approaches us. We're happy to help. And, we do roughly about 20 trade shows this year. We're closing about the 20th trade show, I think, next week. So, we love reaching out to the public and engaging with the private sector, public sector, government. So feel free to reach out to us, and we'll get you connected with someone on the team and help you out.
It seems to me that Keeper Security deal in much, much more than just password management for consumers, SMBs and enterprises. So I cannot thank Darrin enough for revealing these new findings on SMB level security vulnerabilities, and how many breaches often come from within an organisation due to negligence, mismanagement of passwords, etc. So it's an easy fix if it was just addressed early on. So a big thank you to Darrin, who's incredibly knowledgeable on all matters pertaining cybersecurity, and I'd love to get him back on the show in the future. But over to you all listening. Please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or pop by my website, techblogwriter.co.uk, and hopefully there's no Viagra ads on there. Keep your thoughts, insights, expertise, Christmas movie selections, keep them all coming in, and I'll join you again tomorrow. So thanks for listening, and until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.